Hey guys. Now, when I say NHL rivalry, you think Boston, Montreal, Chicago, St. Louis, New York and Philadelphia, Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, game matchups like that. Well, start thinking Los Angeles and Calgary because the Kings Flames rivalry has really become one of the best in the NHL. These teams cannot stand each other. They're in the same division, and just their games over the past couple seasons have really turned into wars, basically. There's a natural rivalry there, or opportunity for rivalry, just because they're in the same division and they're pretty evenly matched teams. So they're going to be fighting for the same spot in the standings. Both teams are going to be fighting for a playoff spot. So there's your natural rivalry just there of trying to win and be better than your opponent. But what really set it off was Matt Tkachuk's elbow to Drew Doughty last year. And since then, these games have just been wild. And last night, they met for the first time this season, and all the hatred, all the animosity from last season has definitely carried over into this season, which I think is fantastic. The NHL needs more rivalries. They need fiercer rivalries. They need nastier games, more emotional games. The season so far has been very dull, and they need more matchups like this that really get the blood boiling and that really make for exciting hockey. And last night, there were no fights in the game, but there were a lot of scrums, a lot of jawing. Drew Doughty and Matt Tkachuk absolutely destroyed each other verbally when they were both in the penalty box. I mean, it went on and on and on, just back and forth. It's really, quite awesome to see, and the kind of thing that happened, a lot in the 80s and 90s, but you don't really see much anymore. But that was great to see, and there were tons of scrums. The only thing that really kept this game from turning into an all-out brawl was the score. It was a close game, ended up going to overtime where Calgary won 4-3. The 2 points are too important. You can't, turn a close game or a tie game like that into, a real gong show. But if that were a 2 or 3 or more goal game with one team way out ahead, I think you would have seen, the last 10 minutes of that game would have been something that you don't see much anymore. It would have really exploded into, a lot of fights, a lot of brawls, and then you would have had, 3-4 guys left on the bench. But I can't wait till these teams play again. I kind of hope that the next time they play it's not a close game, because I want to see what happens, because I think we'd be in for an absolute trip back 20 years into old-time hockey. There's not that many rivalries left that every single game is just, nasty and physical and just full of hate. Last night was a perfect example. Pittsburgh and Washington, that game had no physicality at all. Ryan Reeves played. I didn't notice him once. Tom Wilson wasn't in the lineup for Washington, so that certainly took some of the heat out of the game. But a lot of these rivalries that are still good rivalries just don't have the hatred that they used to. And Calgary and LA, they're not really traditional rivals. They're not the matchup you would think when you think of NHL rivalries, but they are quickly rising to the top of the best and my favorite rivalries in the NHL. Just every time they play, it's just nasty, and they're all over each other, and the last 2 years have been fantastic. I hope they meet up in the playoffs. I don't think it's going to happen, because I think for that to happen, they would have to finish 2-3 in the Pacific, and that would mean Anaheim or Edmonton dropping to a wild card spot, and I don't see that happening. But man, how fantastic would it be to see these two teams meet in the playoffs? I mean, that would be a wild series, and if that went 6 or 7 games, I mean, it would be just craziness. But Yeah, when these two teams meet, I'm really paying attention. I can't wait to see what happens. I can't wait till they play again because I think this is just building and building and building. It never fully exploded last year. They did have the one game where Matchachuk tried to fight on his first shift, didn't, because Jake Muzzin didn't drop the gloves. Then he fought Braden McNabb, and then later in the game, Derek Englund fought Jerome McGinley. But that game wasn't like the total explosion, pot boiling over type game. That hasn't happened yet because this is still, this is a rivalry that's really only heated up in the past, last season and then going into this year. It's going to be interesting when it finally explodes because both these teams bolster very, tough lineups, especially for the new, modern NHL. So, we have the potential to see like a 4 or 5 fight game here, and that just doesn't happen anymore. We could see, a 3 fight line brawl, and, that you don't see that nowadays. I'm trying to think of the last time we had a real good like line brawl, and it's been a couple years. So hopefully the next time they meet, it's not as close of a game. Hopefully things get out of control, and hopefully this rivalry keeps building into a really awesome one with lots of hatred and lots of animosity. Certainly well on its way. Just hope it continues, and these matchups will be must-watch hockey every time. Like, comment, share, subscribe, spread the word. We want the channel to grow. Thank you very much for watching. Talk to you guys again soon.